There's a quiet shift happening among men today, and most people haven't noticed it yet. It's subtle, silent, almost invisible unless you're paying attention, but if you look closely, you'll see it everywhere. In the man working late by choice, in the guy at the gym who doesn't wear a wedding ring, in the one eating alone at a restaurant without a hint of discomfort. These are not men who failed to find love. These are not men who can't get women. These are men who could easily, but simply don't want to anymore. Because they learned something the world never warned them about. Some men lose themselves inside relationships long before they realize their identity is missing. And smart men, the men who think, the men who observe, the men who've lived enough to recognize patterns, they're stepping back, not out of fear, not out of bitterness, not because they're antisocial, but because their minds have finally connected the dots. Peace is not a luxury. Peace is survival. And many relationships today ask men to sacrifice their peace as the entry fee. See, the modern man is tired of being judged for what he provides instead of who he is, tired of explaining his boundaries, tired of investing everything into someone who doesn't invest half as much back, tired of carrying emotional labor that nobody ever carried for him. And for the first time in generations, men aren't apologizing for protecting themselves. Smart men have begun to understand something psychology has known for decades. The environment you attach yourself to becomes the biggest predictor of your emotional health. If that environment drains you, you decline. If it destabilizes you, your focus collapses. If it constantly demands more than you're capable of giving, you break a relationship used to be a refuge, somewhere a man could exhale after carrying the world. But today, many men feel like relationships are the world they must carry. So, what do smart men do? They stop running toward anything that looks like emotional debt. They stop volunteering to fix people who don't want to fix themselves. They stop offering security to someone who values excitement more than loyalty. They stop handing over their emotional world to someone who hasn't earned access to it, and instead, they stay single. Not to avoid love, but to avoid losing themselves. Because the truth is, a man doesn't stay single because he doesn't want connection. He stays single because for the first time in his life, he's finally connected to himself. He knows what drains him. He knows what excites him. He knows what distracts him from his goals. He knows how easily he used to give his life away in exchange for moments of validation, and he refuses to do that again. Smart men stay single because they're rebuilding, not their careers, their identity, not their confidence, their peace, not their masculinity, their emotional clarity. They're learning what they were never taught. A man with direction is dangerous. A man with discipline is unstoppable. But a man with peace is untouchable. And the world feels that. Women feel that. People feel that. That's why the single man who knows himself isn't lonely. He's magnetic. He's not running away from relationships. Relationships are running after him, because humans gravitate toward those who are centered, calm, grounded, and self-possessed. This is why smart men stay single, not because they're avoiding love, but because they're choosing themselves first. And for a man who's spent years giving everything to everyone else, choosing himself feels like freedom for the very first time. Smart men stay single because they finally understand a truth most men learn too late. When a man doesn't know himself, he becomes whoever the relationship needs him to be, even if it destroys him. For years, men were told that love is sacrifice, give more, provide more, fix more, endure more. But they were never told the psychological cost of becoming everyone else's foundation. A man can only be the rock for so long before he starts crumbling from the inside out. So smart men have begun doing something powerful, something previous generations never had the courage or awareness to do. They're choosing self-preservation over emotional obligation, not because they're selfish, but because they learned how much damage a wrong relationship can cause. Psychology shows that when a man enters a relationship that constantly triggers his stress response, criticism, emotional instability, unpredictability, pressure, his brain shifts into survival mode. And a man in survival mode can't grow, he can't focus, he can't create, he can't evolve. He becomes trapped inside his own body, drained by someone who confuses his loyalty for weakness. Smart men know this now. They've seen their friends lose themselves in toxic love. They've watched men abandon their dreams because they were too busy managing chaos at home. They've seen men mentally collapse because they never had space to breathe, think, or be human. And the modern smart man says, "Not me, not again." So instead of chasing relationships, he builds one with himself. He's not single because he can't find love. He's single because he refuses to settle for emotional turbulence disguised as passion. He'd rather eat alone than argue every night. He'd rather sleep in silence than sleep beside someone who makes him feel unseen. He'd rather build a peaceful life than fight for a chaotic one. And there is something deeply psychological about this shift, something primal. For the first time, men aren't equating their worth with their relationship status. They're not using women as emotional validation. They're not chasing acceptance like a reward. Instead, they're learning a powerful lesson. A man who validates himself becomes immune to manipulation. He becomes independent, emotionally stable, clear-minded, focused. And here's the twist. The more a man becomes emotionally independent, the more women want him. Not because he plays games, not because he's arrogant, but because emotional independence radiates strength. People want the man who doesn't need anyone. People chase the man who chooses, not the man who begs. People feel drawn to the man with a life, not the man searching for one. And this creates a psychological advantage smart single men are beginning to recognize. Being single isn't a disadvantage, it's leverage. Leverage to build, leverage to think, leverage to evolve without interruption, leverage to choose intentionally, not desperately. This is why smart men stay single, because they've realized that the world becomes easier to navigate when your heart is not tied to the wrong person. But there's another reason, a deeper one, something almost no one talks about. And it's this reason that truly separates the smart single man from everyone else. There's a deeper reason smart men stay single, one that doesn't get talked about because it reveals a truth most people don't want to face. Men today understand the psychological weight of giving their life to the wrong person. Not a little stress, not a few arguments, not the normal friction of two people figuring things out. No, the weight. The weight of being responsible for someone else's emotions every second of the day. The weight of being blamed for problems he didn't create. The weight of having to constantly prove his loyalty, his intentions, his worth, even when he's already given everything he has. Smart men don't fear commitment. They fear misplaced commitment, because they've watched it destroy too many lives. They've seen men trapped in relationships where the woman treats his effort like oxygen, something she expects but never appreciates. Where the moment he slows down, even for a breath, she accuses him of not caring. Where every disagreement turns into a courtroom and he's always the defendant. Where peace becomes a memory and walking on eggshells becomes the norm. Smart men look at this and think, why would I willingly sign up for that? And they don't. Because psychology teaches something brutally honest. When a man lives in constant emotional tension, his mind slowly rewires. He becomes anxious, reactive, numb, disconnected from himself, disconnected from his goals, disconnected from the life he once envisioned. A relationship isn't supposed to make a man lose his identity, but many do, and the smart man refuses to let that happen. Instead, he isolates himself not out of fear, but out of clarity. He wants to hear his thoughts without interference. He wants to build without distraction. He wants to breathe without justification. He wants to feel like his mind belongs to him, not to someone who manipulates it. And there's something else smart men have begun to understand. Modern relationships reward the man who sacrifices himself, not the man who protects himself. If he gives everything, he's applauded. If he loses himself, he's praised for being dedicated. If he accepts disrespect, people call him patient. If he leaves, they call him weak or afraid of commitment. So what does the smart man do? He steps out of the game entirely. Not because he can't win, but because the rewards don't match the risks. And here's the part no one wants to admit. Being single gives a man control over the one thing he's never given enough of: his energy. A man's energy is his currency. His mind, his discipline, his ambition, all of it flows from the same source. And when that energy is constantly being drained by conflict, emotional volatility, or unrealistic expectations, he loses the most valuable thing he owns: his future. Smart men stay single because they've realized something painful but true. It's easier to build a life alone than to rebuild yourself after loving the wrong person. And the world misunderstands this. They think he's bitter, cold, closed off, emotionally unavailable. But no, he's simply aware. He's aware of how fragile his peace truly is. He's aware of how much damage a toxic relationship can inflict. He's aware that once a man loses himself, getting himself back is not guaranteed. For a smart man, staying single isn't a retreat, it's a strategy. A strategy to protect his mental health, a strategy to grow without emotional sabotage, a strategy to choose connection intentionally, not desperately, a strategy to make sure that when he does give someone his heart, he still recognizes himself afterward. Smart men aren't avoiding love, they're avoiding losing themselves. And that clarity, that self-awareness, is what makes them powerful. There's one more layer to this that most people completely overlook, the part that reveals just how intentional smart single men have become. Smart men stay single because they finally understand the truth about emotional investment. Every relationship requires it. Every bond needs it. Every connection depends on it. But here's the reality. Psychology rarely sugarcoats. If a man invests emotionally in the wrong woman, it can destroy the parts of him he spent years building. It's not dramatic, it's neurological. A man becomes what he attaches his emotions to. If he attaches himself to instability, he becomes unstable. If he attaches himself to constant drama, he becomes exhausted. If he attaches himself to someone who doesn't reciprocate, he becomes empty. Smart men looked at the cost, looked at the return, looked at the patterns, and chose themselves. Because they learned something powerful. You don't have to be in a relationship to be emotionally connected. You can be connected to your purpose, your future, your discipline, your peace. For the first time, men are discovering the psychological benefits of solitude. Not loneliness, solitude. Loneliness is being disconnected from others. Solitude is being deeply connected to yourself. And smart men are choosing solitude because solitude gives them what most relationships take away: clarity. Clarity to think without noise. Clarity to plan without distraction. Clarity to heal without interruption. Clarity to move without asking for permission. And with that clarity comes transformation. The single man begins to change. He stands up straighter. He speaks differently. He walks with a slower, calmer confidence. He doesn't chase attention. His silence becomes the loudest thing in the room. He doesn't beg to be understood. He understands himself. Slowly, he becomes the man he once hoped a relationship would help him become. But he's doing it alone. Here's the twist. When a man truly commits to becoming his best self, staying single stops feeling like a temporary phase and starts feeling like an upgrade. Not because he hates love, not because he hates relationships, but because he's finally tasting a version of himself that is sharper, stronger, calmer, more focused, more controlled, more stable, and he doesn't want to lose that again. Psychology calls this self-expansion. The feeling a person gets when they grow into a bigger, more capable version of themselves. And for smart men, staying single is the fastest path to that expansion. Because when a man doesn't have to manage chaos, he can manage himself. When he doesn't have to fix someone else's wounds, he can heal his own. When he doesn't have to constantly explain who he is, he can finally become who he's meant to be. This is why smart men are staying single. Because they're not searching for love, they're searching for alignment. They're not waiting for validation, they're building identity. They're not avoiding heartbreak, They're avoiding emotional bankruptcy. They're not scared of commitment. They're scared of committing to the wrong life, and the most powerful part? Smart men know that the right relationship will never interrupt their growth. It will amplify it. So they're not rushing, they're not desperate, they're not hunting for connection. They're building themselves until the only person who fits their life is the person who won't destroy it. Smart men stay single because they've realized something most men never do. Sometimes the strongest version of you is the one who refuses to settle, even when the world calls it loneliness. In reality, it's not loneliness. It's discipline. It's self-respect. It's psychological freedom. And that is why smart men are staying single, and why they're winning.